Good morning, foliage family. My name is Romani, the mother of leafy boys, and today I'm going to go through my top 10 plants, or the 10 plants that I would keep in my collection if I had to get rid of every other plant. So this is a bit of a trend that I'm seeing going around. I don't know who exactly started it, but I've seen like good growing, plants with Melissa, wild fern. I've seen a bunch of creators doing the same kind of video where essentially you pick 10 plants that you would keep in your collection. Like if you could only have 10 plants, what would be your 10 favorite plants? And it was actually a friend that sent me Melissa with Plants video, and she was like, I'm really curious what yours would be. And it got me thinking, and it kind of got me excited thinking about which would be my best 10 plants. So I'm kind of sitting on like a plant wall right now and thinking about how I would be able to fill out my entire collection and make this, big lush greenhouse if I only had 10 kinds of plants. Now, I read this as like I could still have a massive collection and have heaps of plants, but I would only get 10 kinds and I could have multiple of that one kind. Like that's how I read it. I wouldn't only have 10 plants, but I would have those 10 plants and have multiple of each and style them in different ways. I'm not sure if I'm like changing the goalpost, but that's how I went about picking my 10, is like where they would fit in my space and how many different ways I could attempt to grow that plant. So these 10 are in, I don't think any particular order. They're just the 10 plants that I would keep, but I would say that they would also be my 10 favorite plants in my collection as well. Like as I was going through them, I was thinking about which plants I would be really sad to leave my collection, and these are the ones that I had remaining. And yes, you're going to be able to see some already around me at the moment. So the first plant that I would have in my collection is a gloriosum, a Philodendron gloriosum. This is a little variegated one, and I don't know how the rules would feel about having a regular and a variegated one. Yes, I've got a variegated one in my hand, but you can also see just the regular kind above my head here. So I also have the regular gloriosum. I don't know if the rules would let me have both because they're both gloriosum. I have a funny feeling no. So it would be a bit of a battle royale, but I don't think I could give up my big gloriosum that's behind me. So if I had to pick between this one and the plant behind me, I think I would have to go with the one that's behind me. But if I could have both, I would have both of these in my collection. But it is a crawler, and I absolutely love this plant. I'll show you some close-ups of the one that is behind me as well. Some of the plants are going to be a bit too big to actually fit in the frame today, but I'll show you some other videos as well as we go along. But I love that it's a crawler. I feel like it wouldn't be a complete collection unless I had something that could crawl along the bottom and stays low in my collection, because that's how I build these big beautiful walls of plants, is by having climbers and crawlers mixed in together. And I know a lot of people hate crawlers. I am a crawler lover. I'm a stan for the crawlers. I will always keep crawlers in my collection. I think they are a great filler plant. And no, you don't have to have them in rectangular planters. I don't have mine in rectangular planters. Mine are in round ones. I just chop them when they get towards the end and redirect them back into the pot. Like, yes, it means that they don't grow as big as quickly, but I think that they're gorgeous and I love them. The second plant that I would keep in my collection, I definitely cannot fit in this frame. It is my Anthurium pallidiflorum. And I think this is just a stunning plant. It's really different to all of the other plants I'm going to show in this collection. It has these long, strappy leaves. It's velvety. I think it's the only Anthurium that I'm picking as well. So out of all of my Anthuriums, this one is obviously my favorite Anthurium because I just think it's really different. It's this long pendulum leaf. It's an easy grower for me. I just think that my collection wouldn't be the same without the pallidiflorum. The next plant in my collection of only 10 would be the Hoya bella. I love hanging and trailing plants. I cannot get enough of hanging and trailing plants. I think they are stunning, gorgeous, perfection. In fact, I was thinking of doing a full collection video of all of my hanging and trailing plants, but I feel like it would just be a houseplant tour because I feel like over 50% of my plants are hanging and trailing plants. So that could be mildly problematic, I think. But this plant is just so stunning. I absolutely love it. If you are looking for a variegated Hoya bella and you are local to the Logan area, I know for a fact that Mad Plant Ladies currently has a couple of the babies from my plants still in stock at their store. So if you have a hankering for one of these plants and you're desperate for them, head over to the Logan Hyperdome and pick yourself up a couple. I think they've got 3 still in stock there. So they're just stunning. They're really quick growers. I find Hoyas can be really slow. That is not the case for the Hoya bella, which is why I would want it in my collection, because I feel like I could chop it and prop it and make babies throughout my collection really, really easily. Specifically the variegated kind, I absolutely love variegation, but I think there's just like a dainty, kind of magical feel when it comes to the Hoya bella, and super easy care. I barely ever water it because it's up in the window and it's hard for me to reach, and it blooms like crazy. If you want a Hoya that blooms, this one, I have never gotten any other plant to bloom before I got the Hoya bella, and then suddenly I have blooms 24/7 come spring and summer. So if you want a blooming plant, get it. And that's why it's in my collection, because I would still want blooms in my collection. And the next plant, again, I cannot bring it to you, unfortunately, because it is so big, but it is my Epipremnum pinnatum albo. And this is going to be a shock to no one. If you have seen my videos before, I feel like it is not shocking that if I had to keep a plant, only 10 in my collection, that the Epipremnum would be one of them, because it is just one of my most beautiful and easy care plants ever in existence. I could have this plant trailing, I could have it climbing. There is just an endless amount of opportunities when it comes to how I could grow this plant. I think I would have my big one. I would have a smaller climbing plant, like one that's just on a plain stake instead of a moss pole, and then I would also have like a big trailing pot as well. So I know for sure that if I could only have 10 plants, I would definitely have this one multiple ways. And while we're on plants that I cannot bring in front of you, I might as well mention my Alocasia jacklyn, or tenderusa. It might be, I think tenderusa is the other way of saying it. But the Alocasia tandoori chicken is so beautiful. It's a harder plant to keep alive, and I think I would be really upset if I didn't have it anymore, because I am so proud of this plant as well. So I think I'd be really disappointed if I didn't have it in my collection anymore. But I would definitely, I think, separate this plant, or at least like try and find more corms from this plant to spread it through my collection if I could only have the one. If I could only have, 10 plants. It's a bit more of like a fussy plant, so I'm definitely giving up a lot of the bright light in my collection to this specific plant if I was to keep it in my collection, but it is so worth it because I just think it brings such a cool, unique jungle vibe to your collection. Sticking on the Alocasia train, the next one is the one that's been sitting in the frame the whole time, my Alocasia micholitziana. I'm probably saying that super incorrectly. It's the Alocasia green velvet. The non-variegated one, people call it Friedeck, but Friedeck is the variegated one. But again, if I could keep a variegated and a green, I would. But if it had to be one or the other, it would definitely just be the plain green, because I think it is just such a cool plant to fill spaces, because it can grow in, you know, less ideal light, definitely not low light. This is not a low light plant, but it could definitely grow in like medium light and still live, whether my jacklyn would die. But this one's like a little bit more adaptable. If I want the big beautiful leaves, obviously it needs to be in brighter light, but it gives me corms like nobody's business. So if I could only keep this one, I think I would have like 50 to 60 of the alocasia green velvets, because it just keeps pumping out corms like nobody's business. So I wouldn't have a problem filling up every nook and cranny of my house with this plant, because I would have so many. The next plant is my Philodendron micans. Now this scraggly, sad looking one is the one from my like bathroom. I'll show you the much nicer one that I have over by the TV behind me here, but I thought this one would be easier to bring to the screen. But I love this plant for its diversity. I feel that I needed this particular kind of plant in my top 10 plants, purely because of how many different ways I could grow it. So this plant could grow up a pole, and it could be climbing, it could be trailing, it could be highlight, it could be low light. Because this one's in my bathroom, it's a super low light plant as well, or it can be if I want it to be. So I was thinking of all my plants, and I felt like my list had a lot of highlight plants in it, which, you know, it does. It has a lot of highlight plants in the collection currently. But I thought that the micans would bring a little bit of interest. There's multiple ways to grow it, and it's a great plant for my low light spaces. And I kind of think the only one that I've got on the list today that would probably do well in low light, I think the gloriosum as well. Like the gloriosum would be fine in lower light. And then this one, and that would be it. So all of my dark corners would be filled with nothing but gloriosum and micans, but I don't think I would hate that. So yeah, I think this is 7th on the list, is the micans. All right, we are down to the last 3 that I would have in my collection now, and number 8 is my Hoya heuschkeliana. I couldn't live without this one. This one has to be in my collection. I think it's so stunning. Let's see if I can get it in camera without focusing on my face. I think the variegation on this plant is absolutely stunning. Again, it gives me the opportunity to grow this either as a long trailing pot or spiraled around a cool trellis. This one also gives me blooms, not as many as my Hoya Bella, but it still gives me, you know, a fair amount of blooms. Also, with the combination of my Hoya Bella albo and this one, I have inner and outer variegated, which I don't know why, I just felt like I needed a balance of inner and outer variegated plants. I don't know. I'm a bit of a weirdo. I like to have like a little bit of everything ticked off in my brain. I think is why I had to add this one to the list. So I've got like an inner variegated, an outer variegated, like a plain green, veiny plant. Like I think I'm ticking off every box in my mind of what I need in my collection. So yeah, I think this is just a super easy grower. I haven't had really any issues with it. Even when it had some mealybugs, it didn't seem to stop the plant from growing. I love the way that this one also sun stresses. I wanted one in the collection that has really beautiful sun stressing. So that's why I picked this one, because it has a beautiful like pink color when it sun stresses. I think because it's been winter, I don't have a lot of sun stressing on it at the moment, but I think you can see it on this side. I don't know if you can see it there, but there's a little bit of sun stressing on there. Again, because it's winter, you're not going to see as much, but come spring, it's going to be a beautiful pink pot of leaves. All right, the next one is a Monstera albo. And again, I will show you the albo that I have in the other room, but you can also see Right behind me, I also have my second albo. I already have 2 of these in my collection. So you can see the one right behind my head here. It's so beautiful. I love the Monstera albo. Again, it's a plant that you could try and put multiple stems and grow like this bushy plant, or you could try and grow it up a stake and get those big, beautiful fenestrated leaves. And I feel like depending on how juvenile the plant is, you're going to get a different look. So it's almost going to feel like I have multiple plants in my collection if I have them at like all different stages of its life. And coming in at number 10 has been the beauty that's been beside me the entire time, my Dischidia string of nickels. And it is sort of like ticking off the last part in my brain, which is a silvery plant. I really battled in my mind whether or not I wanted this to be the Dischidia string of nickels or whether I wanted it to be the Philodendron majestic, because they both sort of tick the silvery part off in my mind. But I think there's something a little bit more whimsical and magical about this plant. I might regret that, but I felt like I had like the alocasias that were sort of coming from the bottom and the micans, and I feel like I filled every other category. I don't know. Maybe I don't have a big leaf. No, because I've got the Monstera. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this. Stick with this as being my 10th plant. I think there is just something so magical and mystical and beautiful about the Dischidia string of nickels. It's also the only Dischidia that I've got in the collection. So I think combined I have Philodendron, Monstera, Dischidia, Hoya, Alocasia, Anthurium. I don't have any begonias, but I'm also not a big begonia person, and I don't have any like peperomia either, but I think I've got like the core group. The core solid main group of plants have all been ticked off. I think an honorable mention would have to be the majestic. I think if I could sneak an 11th plant into the collection, it would have to be the majestic. If I could, I'd just sneak majestic in there. All right. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 plants that I would have if I had to completely start my collection over and I could only have 10 plants. Those would be my go-to. I would miss so many of my plants. I would be so sad to lose a lot of the other plants that I have in my collection that I've grown for so many years. But if I had to, those would be my top 10. Let me know what your top 10 would be, or even your top plants, like one plant that you could not live without in your entire collection. I would love to hear what your staple is. And if you've made it to this point in the video, can you please leave a little leaf emoji in the comments to let me know that you've made it this far. Please do all the YouTubey things, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!